Hello and welcome into another edition of Sitting Down with Sgar. I'm Jeremy Huber, voice of Georgetown football, joined by the head coach of the Hoyas, Rob Sgarlata. Coach, thank you for joining us today.
Jeremy, great to see you.
Coach, again, a tough one last Saturday, a loss to Monmouth. Hawks kind of got away from you in the second half, but talking before we kind of got going on the show, it felt like both of us thought, and obviously your opinion's more important than mine, but you guys were a few plays away from that one maybe being a totally different game.
Yeah, we had plays on the table in the first half. The half ended 21-6 and 4 or 5 plays on the table, one on the defensive side, and two on the offensive side. Very easily could have been a 21-14 game. As it stood at 21-6, we went in halftime feeling pretty good about what our plan was and how we were playing. So, as you look at the game, I would say this is a good football team. Give Monmouth all the credit in the world for the game, but we didn't play our best, and that's been fuel for us this week as we're preparing to welcome Columbia down to DC.
Yeah, good Columbia team coming to town. They got to win against Marist, same team you guys beat. One positive you took away from that game was you got some more young guys a chance to play. Obviously, Lehigh, that went right down to the end, couldn't really do it. You had some guys get in there, get their feet wet. Maybe is that a positive to take out of the Monmouth game?
Anytime that you can get game experience, whether it's our younger players or our older players, I think is invaluable. When you get in those in-game situations, in our live situations against good opponents, which everybody that we play is going to present challenges. I think as we get going, the more depth that we can create in those situations is going to be beneficial for us throughout the season.
Coach, one guy we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, Sherman Steptoe won Patriot League honorable mention honors. I believe led your team with 10 tackles. Not always what you want to see the DBs getting that high of a tackle count, but obviously willing to stick his nose in and bring the guys down when need be. Talk about Sherman Steptoe, a guy who's been with this program a couple of years and had a chance to show out a bit against the Hawks.
Yeah, it's great to see Sherm get some substantial playing time. One of his biggest assets is he's extremely versatile. He's a good man cover guy, and he does a great job in the run game. So feel very comfortable with Sherm playing a lot of snaps for us. Great person, has done a great job, especially within our secondary of helping bring along some of our younger players. Definitely a leader for us on and off the field.
Coach, as we transition over into the Columbia game this weekend, where is this team health wise? I know early in some seasons recently, you've had some key injuries early on. It's really made it tough on you down the stretch. It feels like, and I could be completely wrong, but this team's relatively healthy right now, correct?
Yeah, coming into this week, we feel pretty good. Like I said, that our goal throughout the practices and throughout our preseason is to make sure that we're doing a great job with our schemes, so that we can have some younger players when their opportunity comes performing at an extremely high level. So, we going into week 4, feel pretty good about our team on both sides of the ball and looking forward to getting back out there this weekend.
As we move on to Columbia, Rob, this is a game against the Lions, which has been a competitive series since it resumed. And of course, it's resumed with the Lou Little Trophy, commemorating Lou Little, who coached both at Georgetown and Columbia. Can you tell us about how that all came to be, playing really a trophy game for between these Ivy and Patriot League schools that have that kind of shared heritage in Lou Little?
Yeah, it's a great tradition that was started. Pat McCardle works here in our athletic department. He's a Hall of Fame member. Played on our lacrosse team and has been with Georgetown for a long time. And he worked with our alums who, a lot of them are the direct reason why we have our program and why we play in the Patriot League right now. So, Bruce Simmons, Dick Williams, John Coons, Dave Gorsey, and Rory Quirk really worked to get this game and this series set. It's a 10-year contract for us to play Columbia, which I hope continues every year, even after that contract is over. But, the shared history between the two schools is really important. And it helps us, honestly, to instill in our kids, the understanding of the importance of football here at Georgetown and on the Hilltop. The program started in 1883. And has been here a long time, has been, part of the fabric of Georgetown overall and Georgetown athletics. So it was fun this morning, just to talk to our players and explain to them the history of the games from way back then and Lou Little all the way up into this current series.
And coach, it's funny. I'm a guy who grew up rooting for Penn State, who joined the Big Ten, and you learn about the trophy games, which sometimes I like to call the "what'd you find in your grandparents' basement" games. There's always something they're playing for. Is it fun for the kids to have that chance to go and have a shot to lift a trophy at the end of the game?
Absolutely. It's extremely competitive every game that you play, but this has a little bit added notoriety to it because, our local, our recent players, I've gotten a ton of messages this week from our players that have won the trophy and the guys that haven't saying, hey, this is a big deal. Make sure the guys understand that there's a lot of people interested in what's going on, especially in this rivalry. With it being Columbia and being in New York, that's our second home there. So the Hoya football family is extremely strong up in New York, especially through New York City and Wall Street. So, this is a big deal for us here and for our alums across the country.
And it feels like, Rob, not only is this game beneficial for you guys, you get to play up in New York, you get to play there, they get to come down here. It feels like it's a kind of a mutually beneficial game for both programs.
Yeah, I think anytime that you can get two institutions like a Georgetown and a Columbia together and play at a very, very high level, I think that it's a plus for both schools. Anytime that you can bring somebody down to DC, and I especially enjoy playing in New York, in front of our alums and in front of our families up there. So, great series. Really looking forward to continuing it and working our tails off to keep Lou Little here in the district where he belongs.
Talking to Rob Sgarlata, head coach of the Georgetown Hoyas, as they get ready for Columbia this weekend. Coach, last year's game, I think what stands out for a lot of folks, kind of the coming out party for Pierce Holly, as he had that amazing game coming in for Joe Brunel. And what do you remember from that game?
I remember that, two things I remember. One is we know that Pierce is an extremely talented quarterback. He can make all the throws, has a lot of poise, and to see him come off the bench that day, I was really impressed with his play, but also with the supporting roles that our receivers, our offensive line, and the running backs really had for him to create that offensive success. He had a lot of targets that day. I think 7 different receivers. Cam Creighton having one of the bigger days. And Asante Das sticks out in my memory of having a great game that day as well. So, it's always important when somebody comes off the bench to see what's around him and what the surrounding cast is. And that day, I remember that distinctly, that he had a lot of support, from our running backs all the way through the O-line to the receivers to have that performance.
Rob, what does this Columbia team do well?
Very well coached. They do a good job on offense of stressing you and making sure that you have to defend the whole field. They very high level quarterback play, especially in the opener against Marist. And then, defensively, they're going to challenge you. They're going to play man to man and they're going to get up close and always have done a good job in the box versus the run game. So for us to have success this weekend, we will play a complete physical football game.
Coach, where are some areas that you and your guys can have some success this week against the Lions?
We're going to continue to preach and talk about the things we worked out since day one. First thing is to take care of the football. In the Monmouth game, we were -2 in the turnovers. Our job is to do a great job of getting to the football and tackling. Offensively, we want to create explosives by getting in opportunities where we can make people miss and take advantage of our skilled players. So, those things are going to stay the same no matter who we play. It's really not about the opponent. It's about how we do those things to create a win for ourselves on Saturday.
Rob, you get a chance to match up against one of the really great coaches in FCS football, Al Bagnoli, the former Penn coach, now at Columbia, won 9 Ivy League titles. There comes the Lions, and we had a chance to check in with him earlier, and it was kind of one of those programs. I compare it to Kansas State and Bill Snyder, what he's done up in New York, where folks really didn't think it was possible. What's it like to coach against a guy like that who's had so much success and actually a guy that you've kind of got to know over the years?
Yeah, from when I first started coaching, even as a player, I was very familiar with the Penn program and Coach Bagnoli. So, in my opinion, if you want to be good at something, find somebody who's done it well, try to emulate what they do and fit how they do what they do into your own situation. So, I very much respect Coach Bagnoli for what he's been able to do at Penn and at Columbia. They do it the right way, treat their players well, coach extremely hard. So, it's always a challenge when you play against a well-coached team, and it's something that I'm really looking forward to. I look forward to seeing them each year. And, it's been a good experience and it's been a great challenge. So I don't think this weekend will be any different.
Yeah, Coach, again, a really good Columbia team, and we'll let you go on this one. So far, Coach, on the season, obviously the opener against Marist went your way, the Lehigh game, a close one, tough one at Monmouth. Overall, what have you seen so far from your Hoyas this season?
This is a good football team. Anybody that's watched us play will understand that. We are continuing to instill a very physical style of football here. We want to be able to stop the run and establish the run game. As much as I talk about our skill players with Pierce Holly and with Josh Tomas, Cam Creighton, Santi Dawson, our receivers, it's going to come down to up front. And that's something that we talk about every day, being able to play very technique sound and be a physical football team. So, hopefully we can continue to build that story and write another chapter of that this weekend.
And one last one for you, Coach. You talk about playing physical. How important has it been to have that offensive line of yours that has some depth, has some elder statesmen, if you will, Azar, Hollensteiner, those guys leading the way? How important has it been with that group kind of establishing that physical tone?
You want to set your culture with the people up front. I give Coach Alex Colt, our offensive line coach, a lot of credit for the culture he's built in that room, how we've recruited it, how we've been able to retain our fifth-year players as well. It's all about talent acquisition, retention, and development. If you look at that group, they're very close, very technique sound, and hopefully they'll continue to set our culture and be able to run the football and protect the quarterback for us on Saturday.
Coach, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, looking forward to this weekend. Always great to come back to the Hilltop. Always great to have a game like this one against a quality opponent. And after the Monmouth game, I know I am, and I know our players are hungry to get back on the field and show what this football team is about and how we can play.
Well, folks, check out the Hoyas, 12:30 Eastern kickoff time on the Hilltop. Tickets available. If you can't get there, you can watch it on ESPN Plus. Should be a fabulous matchup as the Columbia Lions take on the Georgetown Hoyas. Coach Sgarlata, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sherman.
He's Rob Sgarlata. I'm Jeremy Huber. Our producer, Dylan Smith. Thank you very much to him. That's all for this edition of Sitting Down with Scar. We'll see you next time, and Hoya Saxa.